in Sadarghat today, early in the morning, to catch this great foggy scenery that you get here in winter. We've been here once before in summer, which was quite different, but this is definitely a great place to come for some early morning photography. So we're about to hop on one of these little boats for a ride, and we're walking along the edge of this ship here. And here our two photographer friends were actually switching over to their own boat. They were coming along with us, both for fun and to help show us around, but also to take some photos of Sarah and me to tie into our upcoming reception that we had in Bangladesh. So how amazing is this, Sarah?
It's incredible. Wow.
Pretty surreal, surrounded by all this fog.
It's so dreamy.
So highly recommend doing this if you ever come during the winter season, and get up early for it. You have to beat the traffic, wake up at 5, get to Sadarghat, by 5:36 if you can, and take one of these little boats for a tour through the water. It's amazing. After this, we decided to do a loop through the markets, which were really starting up now. I had switched to some Ilford HP5 after the previous roll, and we'll be using HP5 for the majority of this video, a lot of which also had a yellow filter attached to the lens. In this case, I'm using the Voigtlander Ultron 28mm f2 first version. And as I normally would with this camera, I'm using Sunny 16 and zone focusing. And the light was just fantastic, as it was on many of the mornings we experienced during our short time there. But this walk only continued for a few more minutes, as we were actually on our way to the car park so that we could rejoin our friends and meet up with them for breakfast. If there's one thing I can say about Dhaka, it's in one word, that it's just chaotic. And today I've come to shoot in Kawran Bazar. Bit of a market situation, still got black and white in the camera, so I might load another black and white after this. And there's also some railway tracks nearby, which I'll try and check out once I do a run through this market. I've got about an hour or two, so I hope you enjoy the shots. When I saw this guy, I kept pace behind him to wait for the perfect opportunity. Although the action camera wasn't recording, I'm glad I got this shot. Over the last years, I've been trying to focus on layering multiple elements into the one scene with my street photography, which does make things a little bit harder, especially with a wider lens like a 28, but I think the practice is worth it. And sometimes, on the other hand, you just get these scenes with a singular central subject that make themselves and just work in their own right.
আর লোকটা কিন্তু সবসময় লম্বা তুমি মাথায় থাকে না
Alright, I cut through the market and now I'm approaching these train tracks, which I remember experiencing last time, where people are walking all over the tracks and there's markets on the sides. And it looks like there was a fish market here, but it's all closed up. So this little scene coming up is a great example of just one of the type of things you would just find in Bangladesh if you wandered off track. These kids just playing cricket, for example, made for a great opportunity for shots like this, especially when I noticed that kid at the back climbing the little structure with his friend helping him up. And at one point I tried to rush in to get a closer shot while he was still climbing up, but he was getting back down. I managed to get this shot. I do still like how it works since it's mid-action. And meanwhile, a train was about to pass by, which always makes for a great photo opportunity in Bangladesh, especially when you have these passenger trains where people are just hanging on through the doors, popping out of the windows, riding the rooftop. So I slowed down the shutter speed and just awaited opportunities to get a few panning shots. Selfie. Hello, Bolin.
অস্ট্রেলিয়াকে হ্যালো বলো তো
আমি YouTube video করছি।
হ্যালো হ্যালো
Hello.
হ্যালো করছি
Hello. YouTube video.
তোমার নাম কি?
My
Not live. YouTube video.
Bichu, my. Yeah. Sisi ke bana. Abi gale ke ab sisi ke ma chutu mu.
আসসালামু আলাইকুম। আপনি কেমন আছেন?
আলহামদুলিল্লাহ আপনি কেমন আছেন
আলহামদুলিল্লাহ। এটা কি গামছা?
জি
অস্ট্রেলিয়া।
অস্ট্রেলিয়া
আপনার ছবি তুলতে পারবো? আপনাকে ধন্যবাদ। ওয়ালাইকুম সালাম। One of the things I love about street photography is how just a regular everyday life situation for someone else can be such a fascinating scene to the street photographer. I think that it builds your appreciation for the little things and just makes life that little bit more interesting. So just walking along these train tracks, you tend to find a bit of activity that's a bit slower than being deep in the markets or the suburban streets, because people tend to stop and accumulate, or you've got these little shops along the sides of the highways and train tracks. So it's a good spot to come and find little scenes and be able to keep up with the pace a little bit better than being inside all the hustle and bustle. So even just this over here, these guys cooking up some rice, this just makes for a great little scene to work with.
The rice, shada rice.
Shada rice. Amar Bangla balona. Australia take a eshichi.
Bangla mia mia.
Yeah, mia. Oh, Arabi?
Arabi malum.
تحكي عربي؟
Arabi,
اه كيف أنا لبناني، أنا من لبنان. شكرا. I just want to highlight from the editing room that encounters like that were not uncommon, and that the vast majority of people that I met on the streets in Bangladesh were very friendly. I'll talk about this a little bit more in the next section. So if I could talk a little bit more about the experience of shooting here in Bangladesh, especially when it comes to a big city like Dhaka, is that it can be really intimidating, especially at first. And that's not only because of how busy and chaotic the city is and all the noise and traffic, but it's also because as an outsider, you'll notice that if you look like an outsider, you'll just get a lot of attention, you know, all the stares, and you might even be seeing it in this footage, because I can't see the screen, but I'm sure that, like, you know, you'll probably have noticed throughout these vlogs that you'll just get a lot of attention. But the good thing is it's mostly just out of curiosity. People just are really friendly overall. They want to know where you're from, what you're doing here and stuff like that. So once you move past that, hello. Oh, are you? See what I mean? So something that you'll hopefully get over. And in that sense, people are really open to being in photos, and sometimes will intentionally try and get into them. So in summary, if you can move past the chaos and that initial intimidation, I would highly recommend coming to Bangladesh, especially Dhaka, if you enjoy street photography and want to have a good time doing so. And on that note, I'm going to wrap up the vlog here and say thanks for watching, and that I hope you've enjoyed it, that you liked coming along on a bit of the journey. I really enjoyed sharing it. And if you like this kind of stuff and enjoy the street photography process, check out my playlist called Street Process, where I do contact sheets, live streams, where I break down rolls of film, including some of the shots you saw in this video, talk about the process, how it all came together, what could have worked better, and so on. There will be more street photography content on the channel from this trip to Bangladesh, so keep an eye out for that. And if you want to see some of the digital photography that I also did, go and subscribe to my personal channel, where I'll be putting out some vlogs over there, where I focused on shots taken on my Canon EOS R6 on this same trip. So once again, thanks for watching. Let me know what you thought in the comments, and I'll see you on the next episode of Pushing Film.